understand a lot of people didn't play by the rules, but let's just do the law of numbers. In society, there's any number of people that will break whatever rule to get whatever edge. I have a hard time thinking that wasn't an issue. My best friend is a compliance officer in an NCAA school. Now, it's a D2 school, but he said one thing with COVID was that the NCAA testing for steroids has slowed down. I don't think they were doing as much stuff. And that's one guy at one place. I would have to bounce this off other people.
Yeah.
But with COVID and everything, I don't know that the regulations were what they've been in the past. That's a lot of stuff boiled together. You can say what you want. You can take issue with any one of these things, but look at the numbers of runs and home runs. I think you're lying to yourself to think something hasn't changed, whether it's nefarious or otherwise. But I just think I would be surprised off season they didn't do something with the bats or the balls or whatever to get things back to where you can pitch again. Seems safe in this NCAA tournament anytime, anywhere. It's one of the craziest weekends I ever saw. It made for good drama. I don't know that it always made for great baseball, though.
Yeah, and you bring up another point, too. I think everybody understands when in the late 90s when it was gorilla ball, of course, the bats were so live. They had not changed them. Because Major League Baseball didn't have steroid testing, it leaked down into the college level, and you'd be naive not to know that there was a lot of juicing going on back then. So it would be interesting. Sometimes things come back around if that's the case, Chris, and they start kind of, as you said, cracking down on that and trying to change some things and have more stringent testing maybe next year.
Yeah, well, they did it before. I don't remember if it was 2013 or 14, but you remember the year in Omaha in 2014 where there were, 2 home runs hit? That was ridiculous. They had clamped down on the bats to the point where I think they sort of ruined it the other way, and it wasn't as much fun to watch. But I had a source tell me the NCAA used to have some sort of system, I guess this was post-2010 or so, where they had serial numbers for bats that you could track, and that really eliminated all the tampering. Those went away. Again, the bats that these kids are swinging, a player can put a bat through the pregame testing and never use it.
Right.
There are so many bats in the dugout, whether by accident or by purpose, that somebody can pick up and use. And the only way anybody is going to find out what happened is if you check the sticker on the bat, which, you saw that happen a couple times. You saw it happen with Auburn. You saw it happen with Tennessee, where a home run and a single were disallowed in those cases. But the burden of checking was on the other team, and you saw what happened to Tim Corbin. He got called all kinds of names just for asking for a bat test. And it turns out the bat that got used did a home run in that game was illegal, and still it didn't matter. I think it's a bad system where it puts the burden of tattling on the guy in the other dugout. And I hope that they go back to serial numbers or whatever. The NCAA did just an abysmally poor job this year of setting up a system that was ripe for abuse. And I talked to them in midstream. They did not care to change anything. They were going to stick with what they were going. And that's where it's left, is in an environment where it's just really, really hard to pitch.
So 5 SEC teams will start their journey to Omaha. Chris, how many do we see in Omaha when the dust is settled on Monday?
Tennessee looked vulnerable and has got a tough matchup ahead, and really a brutally. I think that side of the bracket is going to be tougher. I still would take Tennessee to win the whole thing over anybody else. A&M is going to beat Louisville. That game is in A&M. That's an old veteran lineup that they just hit you top to bottom. Micah Dallas was a little better for them this year. Nathan Detmer, who's been their ace, has really struggled for 4 or 5 in a row. But right now, A&M has gotten enough out of Jacob Baelish out of the bullpen. He's kind of that emergency guy that you use to pull the brake when you need it. I think Louisville's got pitching issues too. I like strength on strength. I'll go with A&M to beat Louisville. Of course, that game is in College Station. Bracket. What to think of Arkansas and North Carolina? I'll probably go home team there. Southern missed another one of those two. I'd have to look a little deeper into that. Again, I'll stick with what I said earlier. I think Auburn, of all the teams, has got the toughest matchup. I don't know if they match up really well with Oregon State. That said, they played maybe their best ball of the season in what I thought was a tough regional, so don't count them out. But I do think that's the toughest one that the SEC will have to pull off.
Yeah, it's interesting because Oregon State, as you said, the third national seed, really good pitching staff. And then I know it's not an SEC one, but Virginia Tech has kind of flown under the radar. I know they're the fourth national seed. They're going to host Oklahoma, but they've had a really good year. And OU found a way. That was kind of a late collapse for Florida, kind of a heartbreaker. It looked like Kevin O'Sullivan's team was going to dig their way out of the losers bracket and end up advancing to the Supers, but they just couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, you could argue Virginia Tech is the best team in the country besides Tennessee. Again,
right.
Old veteran lineup. They've got a kid in Gavin Cross, who's probably middle to high first rounder. They played really well. Were so consistent all year. Played in a really, really tough league. That's a good point. I'd watch out for those guys too. But Oklahoma, a team that, as you said, peaked late, got hot, won the Big 12 tournament, went to Gainesville, won that too in a very competitive regional. I think that'll be a really good matchup.
Mm-hmm. As far as Auburn, you kind of alluded to it that they've got a tough trip with Oregon State. It's a cross-country trip. Oregon State over the last few years has been an Omaha perennial. I mean, they've been to Omaha several times. How tough really is this one for Auburn?
Well, it's tough. The first seven hitters in the lineup or so were really good. And then the bottom two are the guys that hit yesterday and knocked Vanderbilt out, just out of the blue. So, maybe they're coming alive. Oregon State now has not played its best baseball this season. It lost 6 of 10 coming into the tournament. I think for Auburn, the key is to find pitching. Gonzalez has been so good most of the year. The back end of their bullpen, though, has been really shaky. Burkhalter's given up a lot of long balls. That's where Oregon State really got to Vanderbilt yesterday, is when the pitching depth started to wear down and they made Vandy pay. I think you've got to be really careful pitching that lineup. You've got to really be on your game with your control and your spots. Oregon State coming into the tournament had been walked or hit by pitches over 400 times, and that's before the tournament. That's a crazy number.
Yeah.
So that they can beat you. They can make you beat yourself without even doing much, and that's a nightmarish kind of team to follow. To pitch to, they got Jacob Melton, who was the Pac-12 Player of the Year, who came alive yesterday in that game against Vanderbilt, hit a home run. I think for Auburn, it comes down to pitching. They pitched okay in their regional, pitched pretty well, as a matter of fact, maybe about as well as they pitched much of the year. But Gonzalez has been the only guy that's been really consistent for them. If they can find someone else, and I think that's where Oregon State's a little vulnerable. Connor Jerpe, Cooper, the guy that they'll face in game one probably, was maybe the best pitcher in the country or close to it. So that'll be a tough matchup. But, they're 2 and 3 have been hit and miss, as have been a lot of people. So the difference is they've got several arms out of the bullpen that they can count on, whereas, again, I mentioned Auburn has had some issues there. I think that's where the teams separate. But anything can happen, especially when you got a guy named, like Sonny DeShera. You've got a kid in Blake Rambush who had a really good year, and it just seemed like everybody hit in that regional for Auburn. It'll be interesting, but I just think you put it on paper, Oregon State clearly separates in a couple areas, and that'll be Auburn's challenge, is to go up there and throw strikes against a team that is just going to make you work and work and work.
Well, it's going to be great. The coverage, as you said, returning strong. Chris Lee back in the saddle. He and Blake Lovell are going to be all over the Super Regionals and the SEC and what they're doing. Check out their YouTube channel. Check out their work, southeastern14.com. Chris, you guys do a great job. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for giving us the insight into what may be going on in college baseball behind the scenes and your thoughts on the SEC. We always appreciate the conversation.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chris Lee. Good stuff there, breaking down almost all of the super regionals going on in NCAA
Really
baseball.
good insight there.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, Talking Ball going to continue. We're not done yet. The fun will continue after the break.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, "If you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself."
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
I'm here with Stan McDonald of the Stanton Law Firm. Stan, I guess you are the Stanton in the law firm.
Yes, Wes, that's me, and we started the Stanton Law Firm so that myself and 4 other attorneys with me can help clients litigate, negotiate, and creatively solve legal and real estate problems.
Now, Stan, you grew up on a family farm in this area and have made a name closing on houses and land with your closing company, Jacob Title.
I grew up on a farm which used to be in the country. That, plus having closed on so many homes and farms, one of my colleagues started referring to me as a classic dirt lawyer. Now, I didn't know how to take that at first, that tag, but I realized that's exactly what I do and what I am.
Stan, I know the attorneys at Stanton Law Firm are regular listeners, and we plan to have you on periodically. You and I have seen have impacted this community.
Stay tuned, and you may hear about friends like Steve Booker, Clarence Johnson, Thomas Boyd, and even a few of those offensive line hogs like Hoss Johnson, and maybe you remember some other of those guys too.
I remember Clarence Johnson. He beat us one year. He was unbelievable.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
The city famous for its music is about to be overwhelmed by the Symphony of Speed. June 24th through 26th, Nashville Superspeedway will host an exciting weekend of NASCAR racing and entertainment featuring the Ally 400 Cup Series race, the Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Rackley Roofing 200. Tickets are going fast, so visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com or call 866-RACE-TIX and brace yourself for some full-throttle fun.
And a wreck on the eastbound side of 565 near Jordan Lane. Had a vehicle hit one of the barriers there. I think that it's going to turn out to be a no injury, though. All the units are canceling from that one. Still trying to clear up a couple of wrecks around the I-65-67 interchange at Priceville. Both of those were no injury. From routine care to heart failure, Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialist on Bob Wallace Avenue have the expertise to care for all matters of the heart. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jeff Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
Online at 977ESPN.com.
Stream them online.
Call in.
It's an important job, and it's an vital organization.
Tweet in. and join in. We are 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Steve Moulton from The Drive. Join us this afternoon from 5 to 7 with Wes Neighbors and me. Now back to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
And welcome back, Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. It is Scott Theisen, Drew DeArmond with you for about another 30 minutes as we come to your way on a Tuesday morning. Just had Chris Lee talking a lot of NCAA baseball, focusing on all of the super regionals. But there's a battle in Mississippi that is a battle of all Mississippis for super regional supremacy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And our next guest is with us. He's the program director for ESPN 105.9 and Jackson, Mississippi 106.3 as well. They have a great station there. I've been a part of it. I've been a part of his show, The Afternoon Drive, from 3 to 6. Does a great job. He also does writes quite a bit and he writes some very interesting pieces for collegefootballhourglass.com. But we always enjoy catching up with our next guest, and of course it's Jake Wimberly, who's with us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Jake, I hope you're having a good summer thus far, just getting cranked up. But I know this is, quote-unquote, the off-season, but there's been a lot to talk about. But we thank you for coming back on with us. How are you doing this morning?
Guys, doing great. I appreciate you taking time to have me back on. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's a very interesting one right now in the state of Mississippi because a lot of good college baseball over there. I know Mississippi State made history, won a national championship last year, got hot at the right time. When I think everyone remembers that how poorly they played in Hoover, but then it certainly everything got rolling in the postseason. They win it all for Chris Lemonis. Then this year, showing what a funny sport baseball is. Some pitching injuries, Landon Sims. They lose Tanner Allen. And Rowdy Jordan. Some great players. They don't go to the postseason. But Southern Mississippi picking up the slack. Scott Berry, one of the more underrated programs in the country. They're seated 11th. What a regional over there at Pete Taylor Park. They come back, win 8-7 last night to finally vanquish LSU, and then a team that, quite frankly, may have underachieved and really did in the regular season, was number one and barely gets into the NCAA tournament. But hey, all it takes is to get hot. That's why college baseball is a funny game. We see the Ole Miss Rebels, and they just absolutely play their best baseball of the year in coming out of Coral Gables, and now we have a Mississippi matchup. This is going to be what an environment it should be at Southern Miss coming up in the Supers.
No, I think it's going to be a fantastic environment, and I think that just gives credence to the state of Mississippi as far as baseball is concerned. And you're right, guys. I mean, when you talk about, I had somebody text our show yesterday and said, hey, college football regular season, the best regular season, college baseball postseason, the best postseason. And I really can't disagree with that. When you look at the excitement that surrounds college baseball and especially the postseason, and you reference Chris Lemonis and everything Mississippi State was able to do last year, and then now Southern Miss, and as you referenced, I agree with you that Scott Berry is definitely one of the more underrated coaches in the country. That program down there at Southern Miss, they do such a great job of recruiting in-state talent, and much like the states of Alabama and Louisiana and Texas, Mississippi high school baseball, and we just finished calling the 6 championships here on ESPN Radio here 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago, and several of those kids were committed to Southern Miss that played on 1 through 6A. So Scott Berry's done a great job of combing the state of Mississippi. There's a lot of talent in different pockets of the state, and the same for Mike Bianco. I mean, you're talking about a guy who really has kind of been up against, the wall, so to speak. I mean, he's been at Ole Miss for, well over 2 decades. He built that program to where it is today, but gets a lot of flack from, some of his own fan base about not being able to finish strong, get to Omaha, and now with Mississippi State with a national championship, that puts a, kind of a bullseye on his back. But credit to both programs because they have done a phenomenal job this year. And this should be you're talking about a super regional down in Hattiesburg for the first time ever at Pete Taylor Park. I think that place you could put about 5,500 in there. They're going to probably squeeze every person in there that they can, and it's going to be wall-to-wall fun this weekend.
I was going to say, I mean, it means one thing when you're hosting LSU, for a regional. I mean, that's great, an SEC team coming to your place. But to have Ole Miss, an in-state school, come to your place, that has to mean a little bit more.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And, if you go back into the 80s, and let's go way back here into the 80s, before the SEC money really took effect for Mississippi State and Ole Miss. And, I've always said this, Mississippi State and Ole Miss should count their lucky stars that they're in the SEC, because if they were not in the SEC, they would be Southern Miss. And that is not a shot at Southern Miss. That's a really good athletic program. But Mississippi State and Ole Miss, as you guys know, have been able to capitalize like the rest of the, 12, and of course before we hit 16 teams, off the SEC money, build facilities, and it really just, kind of benefit from being a Southeastern Conference school. So back in the 80s, Southern Miss and Ole Miss played football. They still play baseball, but, there were some big rivalries between those two schools, kind of fluffed off here over the last 20 years. Now, baseball, they've tied it on before here, even in Jackson at Trustmark Park in Pearl for the Mississippi Braves. But it should be an unbelievable atmosphere, and I think you'll see some of those old rivalry habits come out this weekend down in Hattiesburg.
And who do you like in the matchup? Ole Miss, because I certainly didn't think they were going to come out of Coral Gables. I hadn't seen Miami, but I thought Miami would be tough to beat in their own park, but they went 1-2 barbecue. But Ole Miss has a lot of talent. They were number one in the country for a reason going in. You talked about what Bianco's done. But what Scott Berry has reached Omaha, I believe, once before with Southern Miss. But how do you see this matchup coming about? Because I really thought when Southern Miss collapsed against LSU and blew that ninth inning lead 6-2, I wasn't sure they were going to be able to come back through the losers bracket and win it in their ballpark, but they did. And now that you're talking about best 2 out of 3, who do you like?
It's really a coin flip, and I hate to play it like that. Ole Miss definitely has. I think they're pitching the ball better. They're playing as good as anybody in the country. But just like you referenced, Drew, Southern Miss is too. I would have to lean Southern Miss slightly, and I don't necessarily give it because it's the home field advantage. That is going to help to some degree for them, but they're just playing a different type of baseball. They have done it all year long. They've beaten Ole Miss before this season, so it's not like it's an opponent that they're not familiar with. So I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way. But if you're making me hedge a bet, I'm gonna slight lean Southern Miss this weekend.
Home field advantage. That's going to be a fascinating matchup, no doubt about it. And that would be quite an accomplishment. And quite frankly, until you told us here on the show, I've been used to Southern Miss being good for the last 20 years or so in college baseball, so they've been a factor. It didn't occur to me, though, until you told us that they haven't hosted a super regional, so this is quite historic for their program.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. They have done so much for that program, and, even before this year, coincidentally, they went in and redid ribbon boards. They put up a new jumbotron of sorts. They really retrofitted that stadium so they could host, future postseason events. So, the stars kind of aligned. They got everything done. They were able to host a super regional, and now here we are, Southern Miss. Hattiesburg is going to be buzzing this weekend. It'll be wall to wall there.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I guess you could call them a baseball school. I know they've got a lot of history in football, but they have had some struggles lately. The most consistent program on that campus has been baseball.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Basketball really just tumbled, especially under the Donnie Tyndall scandal that happened over about a decade ago. Football has had some moments since Jeff Bauer, but I think you're right. Over the last 10 to 15 years, Scott Berry has been the most consistent. Southern Miss has played a lot of postseason baseball, as you referenced, a trip to Omaha under Scott Berry as well. So, it's just a testament to Scott Berry, and it's a testament to the state of Mississippi and the baseball that's played here. Now, not all of these young men that are on these rosters at the 3 universities, State, Ole Miss, and Southern, are from the state of Mississippi. But there is a lot of great baseball right here in the state of Mississippi, and I think all 3 universities capitalize on that.
Was Southern Miss expected to be this far?
I know that there was a lot of expectations with this program to make a deep run in Conference USA and to get to the postseason. So to say that they could make it to a super, I'm sure there's some inside that program that would say yes, but publicly no. I think the goal was probably just to get to the postseason, and I think anything past that is just gravy. So, this past week winning against LSU the way that they did, that's gravy. If they can punch a ticket to Omaha, then they're just they're literally playing on house money at that point.
Yeah, and they certainly are. Scott Berry done a great job with the Golden Eagles and what he has done with Southern Miss baseball, no question about that. Now, to switch gears, we've been talking a lot of SEC football today, and I've been, very critical of Jimbo Fisher since the comments he made while I had stepped away from the show. But again, I've been just sort of shaking my head. And I said this, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, Jake, and I know you follow the SEC as close as anyone. Scott asked this question earlier in the show. He wanted you to ask me, do I think Jimbo Fisher's even a top 5 coach in the SEC? I said no, because I don't really care about the national championship he won at Florida State because, Ed Ogeron won one. And I know Ed Ogeron's not an elite coach. And I'll say this to you too. And this is not just because of what Jimbo said about Coach Saban. I've never been a Jimbo guy. I've always felt like his team's underachieved. I feel like he had a horseshoe up his rear end when they won it in 2013 because if you go back and think about that game, Auburn had a 21-3 lead. Auburn could have easily won their second national championship in 4 years, and Gus Malzahn could have made some history of his own. They couldn't quite finish it. But again, I've just never been a Jimbo guy, and I don't care about the 7 5-stars or whatever. I still think when it's all said and done, Texas A&M, as I've been calling them, I don't think they're going to be a championship program.
Yeah, he's just not a likable guy, is he? He doesn't seem like a guy that is a likable guy. Top 5 SEC coach, that's debatable. You could put him – I wouldn't put him definitely at the top. You could bring him in at 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. When you just kind of comb through it, obviously Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. I think you have to put Brian Kelly, just in my opinion, in the top of that list just because of the success he's had at other programs, Notre Dame, and then, program at Cincinnati and other places as well. And then you start getting into, which coach is the next coach up, who's, done the best. So, I think he's done an admirable job, but when you're talking about what he's done at Texas A&M, literally the record, and we know this, the stats are out there, not much better than what Kevin Sumlin has done. So to say that he has underachieved, I think that is a fair statement. I think that's probably where some of this anger comes from is he knows that he is underachieved, and, he feels like he's being slighted every time somebody says something about NIL or the transfer portal or the way that players are coming into Texas A&M. And I've said this, on my show several times, is I don't know why some of these coaches don't just own this. This space, Lane Kiffin's owning this. You look at Billy Napier, he's owning it. Several coaches are owning the transfer portal and the fact that, hey, you can now capitalize and get players on name, image, and likeness and stuff. But Jimbo Fisher, he definitely has a chip on his shoulder. They're going to be extremely talented this year. But again, the question is, what does that quarterback position look like? And again, I think most of the SEC public is pretty much, hey, you've got to show me that you can do it. Great, you beat Alabama last year, but the consistency of that program has not been there up to this point. And I would definitely say you could say the program has vastly underachieved under Jimbo Fisher.
How do we look at the way Lane Kiffin, you mentioned Lane Kiffin embracing the transfer portal and everything else. He's kind of going about it, I guess, in the only way Lane Kiffin can, right?
Yeah, he's basically said, hey, look, we're going to treat this thing kind of like NFL free agency, and we're going to cater to people that want to come play for us. And look, we don't know what this Ole Miss team is going to look like this year. But, at least as far as when you start talking about rankings and if you go to On3 or 247 or whichever outlet that you subscribe to, they have done a phenomenal job of bringing in, name-type players at quarterback, at running back, tight end, along the defensive side. So he has really embraced this thing. And I think Lane, and I've said this before, some coaches will adjust to this better than others will. And I think Lane Kiffin, at least on paper, has done that. He's trying to run this thing somewhat like an NFL front office, and we'll see if it pays off. And it's going to be an interesting sample size this year to see how this whole transfer portal dynamic works. We've seen SMU do it for the last several years, and they've done a great job in the AAC and in the group of 5. But with USC, and of course you look at LSU and Ole Miss and a lot of teams that are loading up in the transfer portal, how much success will we see across the board with teams that are doing this? Because it really is. It's like kind of herding ants, so to speak. You're bringing in a ton of new players to try to get everybody on the same page. So it's going to be fun to see, who makes it work, and then we're going to see some samples I would assume that are going to fail as well.
Well, we are, and I still think Texas A&M will as well. When you bring in a bunch of mercenaries, and I still think it's a house of cards when you're paying high school players who have not done a damn thing and not made any plays, and you're paying them all this money. And, of course, Jimbo denies it, but, I mean, no, we're not. We didn't fall off a turnip truck. We know what's going on. And you're putting them in their locker room with returning veterans who aren't making that kind of money. I just think it just, if those guys don't perform right away, there's gonna cause issues. And in your own state, Lane Kiffin, the Pirate Mike Leach, they've already whipped Jimbo Fisher. So to me, I guess you're right that you bring up a good point about the reason Jimbo is so defensive, because deep down in his gut, he knows that this right here is very, very fragile.
Oh, it's very fragile. And you referenced the state of Mississippi. I mean, let's be honest. On paper, if we're just going by, recruiting rankings and talent, Texas A&M should come into the state of Mississippi and beat Ole Miss State every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mississippi State went down there and beat them last year, and Ole Miss has beat them too. So, and that's happened on several occasions over the last several years. So, I think the SEC, as a whole, it kind of puts Texas A&M in this almost, I don't want to say Texas box like the Texas Longhorns. The big joke every year is Texas back. No, they're not. Hey, you've got to show us that you can do this. And of course, all eyes. And if he does not make a deep run to this thing and really kind of put the pressure on Alabama this year, then, I think you're going to start to see, tempers flare down there in College Station, because they've done everything that they can up to this point to try to maximize efforts to be where Alabama is. And if they can't, get to November and be in the conversation for the West, I think those conversations start to fester a little bit.
Yeah, they really do. And I got one more question for you, and it's Ole Miss related, because it's a high-profile transfer to a degree, because he played quite a bit at USC last year. We saw Luke Altmaier get a long audition because of the injury at the quarterback position in the bowl game for Ole Miss. So what is this going to be a one of the biggest quarterback battles in fall camp? Is because I get the feeling that with Lane Kiffin bringing in Jackson Dart, they weren't completely sold that Luke Altmaier was ready.
Yeah, I've always had the opinion that you don't bring in a transfer quarterback unless you absolutely intend to give them every opportunity to play. Mississippi State did that with KJ Costello last year. Now, obviously, that went south middle of the season. Will Rogers took over. But I do agree with you in getting some of the reports out of Oxford that Luke Altmaier they felt was not ready. Plus, when you look at the fact that there was some depth issues there, Jackson Dart is going to get every opportunity to play. And I would suspect that he is going to be the starting quarterback. Now, obviously, if he falters, then, all cards are off the table, shall we say, and then Luke Altmaier may get a chance. But I think for Lane Kiffin and for Ole Miss, if this is going to be one of those years again where Ole Miss is, one of the more prominent teams in the SEC West, they have to have Jackson Dart to be successful, because I don't know that Luke Altmaier can have that kind of success week in and week out. So I think that's why you bring in a guy like Jackson Dart, who has that profile that, excuse me, if you can get him up and running, and we know Lane Kiffin, we all do, and you guys for sure do, know his pedigree, as a quarterback's coach and kind of a guy that can bring a quarterback along. If he can do that with Jackson Dart, then Ole Miss is going to be a pretty darn good football team.
Yeah, Matt Corral, big shoes to fill, but going to be interesting with Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier fighting it out. Well, Jake, great stuff as always. We appreciate your time. Let everybody know they can connect with you. And, of course, afternoon drive from 3 to 6 this afternoon on 105.9 ESPN.
Absolutely. Yeah, hey, I'm on Twitter at JQuim, and, of course, you can just find me there, cfbhourglass.com. We'll be putting out some other stuff as we move past college baseball. And then, of course, you can always stream us on the zone1059.com.
Thank you, Jake.
All right, thanks, Jake.
Thanks, guys. Have a great
Jake Wimberly with us. Wow. The rain is really coming down now.
Yeah, I had to turn the TVs off. Might as well. You're not going to watch anything. I mean, it's I heard the roar.
Outside.
So, it's just one of those things, man. It was dark when we were coming in.
Yeah.
And the bottom has fallen out.
All right, let's get a break in. When we come back here, tomorrow's headlines today to wrap up our 2-hour extravaganza.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
If you need a car, McCurry Motors is ready to put you in a quality vehicle, and in-house financing is available. If you have a job, McCurry Motors will work with you even if you have a bankruptcy, divorce, or bad credit. Visit McCurrySaysYes.com. Every car comes with a warranty, and they report to the credit bureau. With 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens, call 256-230-0232, or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville. Call 256-713-0575.
The best place to get 50s diner-style homemade delectables is Bubby's Diner. Located at 8412 Whitesburg Drive Southeast, try their all-new expanded breakfast menu with homemade waffles, omelets, and shrimp and grits. With 3 generations of experience, Chris Bubby Belcher has the best burgers in town. Don't forget to leave without a homemade pie or a hand-spun milkshake. Get a $50 gift certificate for $25 right now at Bubby's Diner, home of the donut burger.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of a new LG laundry set with Turbo Wash 3D that provides a powerful yet gentle clean in just 29 minutes, making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Shop final days ending June 8th to get an LG top or front load washer dryer set for just $778 each. Valid May 19th through June 8th. U.S. only. Gas dryer extra while supplies last. See store for details.
Hi, this is Wes Neighbors. I'm here with Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Sam, tell the folks about Fleming Roofing and Restoration.
Hey Wes, our company Fleming Roofing and Restoration specializes in commercial and residential roofing and repairs. I'm a 5th generation Huntsvillian, and our family's been doing construction business in Huntsville area since 1965.
Sam, what kind of roofs does Fleming Roofing and Restoration do?
Our guys are skilled enough. We can come out and address any kind of leaks or issues you might have on your commercial, on your metal roofing, on your shingles. We can do anything, and we can offer you a solution to repair it, or we can replace it.
Well, you guys also do insurance restoration.
Our staff has 10 plus years of experience as insurance adjusters, and we really do know the inside and out of the claims process at Fleming Roofing and Restoration.
Check out Fleming Roofing and Restoration online at FlemingHSV.com, or you can call or text them at 256-651-9440.
Hey Wes, we show up.
When I chose a garage door company, I did my homework. I needed Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. They have a 5-star Google rating. I checked their reviews and liked what their customers had to say. Precision Overhead Garage Door has lifetime warranty packages. Same-day service if I call before 2 p.m. If they can't make it the same day, my service call fee the next day is waived. They did a 25-point safety inspection on the door and operator. Now that's peace of mind. Residential, commercial, and gate services. Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. Call 256-400-4500.
Got a stall vehicle reported 565 eastbound east of County Line. It looks like it's right near the Glen Hearn exit ramp off to the right side of the road. And a wreck on 565 eastbound near Jordan Lane had a vehicle hit one of the concrete barriers there. Paged it out with an injury, but they've canceled everybody responding to it. Popeye's Juicy Crunchy Buffalo Ranch Chicken Sandwich is only $4.99. Popeye's University in Jordan, 72 in Jeff, and North Parkway. Captain Nick in the Popeye's Skywatch Traffic Center.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
War Eagle.
It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Welcome back, Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Time for your tomorrow's headlines today. And if we are starting with your tomorrow's headlines today, the College Football Hall of Fame announcing names on the ballot for the 2023 College Football Hall of Fame ballot released. And there are plenty, and I mean plenty of big-time names on this ballot. There's an Auburn Tiger. There's 2 Alabama guys on the list as well for the ballot. Antonio Langham.
One of my all-time favorites. A great guy. Been a guest on this show. I still think the greatest corner I've ever seen at the University of Alabama, one of the greatest college players of all time. He recently, as you know, went into the State of Alabama Hall of Fame. He absolutely deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. So glad he's on the ballot along with Big Sam, Chris Samuels, the great left tackle from Alabama from 1999. But unbelievable career for Antonio Langham, and so happy for him that he's on the ballot.
So some other names that are on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame. You do have Eric Berry from Tennessee is on the list. Greg Carr from Auburn, 1984 consensus first-team All-American. He is on the list for the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame. Tim Couch, former Kentucky quarterback, on the list. Brad Culpepper from Florida, the defensive tackle. Ken Dorsey, the Miami, Florida quarterback, is on the college football. Warwick Dunn. I would have thought Warwick Dunn maybe would have already been into the College Football Hall of Fame. But
it takes a while sometimes, but what a great player he was when they actually had a coach.
Dwight Freeney from Syracuse is on there. Willie Gault, 1982, Tennessee wide receiver, on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot.
Back when they were good.
Dan Hampton, Arkansas defensive tackle, part of the
85
Great
Bears.
Yeah.
Yep.
Marvin Harrison, Josh Heupel, his name is on the ballot.
Yeah, he won a national championship under Bob Stoops. You know, the last time Oklahoma won it, he was he was the junior college quarterback that came out at that time. And when Oklahoma changed their offense, when Coach Stoops went to the air raid attack and they started throwing the football, and they were able to beat that Florida State team that didn't have Chris Winkie due to and upset them, and played really well and won a national title. So you got to give Oklahoma a lot of credit for Coach Stoops back in that time, because he basically got OU back among the elite in the country, and it led to his Hall of Fame career there. And Josh Heupel was his first QB.
Garrison Hurst, Georgia running back. Sebastian Janikowski, and we've done Antonio Langham. Ryan Leaf, Washington State quarterback, is on the list. Marshawn Lynch is on the ballot as well. Kellen Moore, Boise State quarterback.
Yep, great player.
Yeah. Antoine Randall L., the Indiana quarterback.
And yeah, people forget about him because he converted to a wide receiver, had a great career with the Steelers, but he was a heck of an NFL player. But before that, he was an all-purpose QB for Indiana. Some Indiana teams that were average, but he put up a lot of numbers and was a really, really good college player as a QB.
Tim Tebow, his name is on the ballot.
He's a lock.
Peter Warwick, Florida State wide receiver.
99, Florida State when they were good before they had to hire Dip, whatever. Dirt Neck, and ruin their program.
That is a name that is a term you have put to the forefront in the last 24 hours.
Yep, and I did it without cussing, at least the words that you can't say on the air.
And finally, the last name I'm going to mention, just because I want to mention it because it's just something to say, Luis Zendejas.
Oh, wow. Yep, there you go.
Arizona State kicker, 1983. I believe he had a family, right? Wasn't the Zendejas brothers?
Yeah, I believe so.
Weren't they both kickers, I thought?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. That ballot is out. So we'll have to wait and see who lands into the College Football Hall of Fame.
Man, I hope Antonio Langham gets in there,
coaches.
man. And, of course, I'd like to see Chris Samuels, but really Langham, such a special guy, such a great ambassador for college football, done a great job as a high school coach. He's done things the right way throughout, his career after football as well. Such a great and humble person, so easy to talk football with. It was great to see him go into the State Hall of Fame, and I know he was so thrilled about that. But to be immortalized and be recognized like he should be, former Jim Thorpe Award winner and a guy that was on one of the greatest defense, I still think the greatest defense in Alabama football history as a corner, and made so many big plays in that special season during his junior year. And, of course, being from our area as well in Town Creek, I'd love to see Antonio Langham go into the College Football Hall of Fame.
There's 9 coaches that are on the ballot as well. Larry Blakeney from Troy is on the ballot. Ralph Friedgen, Paul Johnson, former Georgia Tech Navy coach.
Georgia Southern especially, some great teams.
Mark Richt is on the ballot, as is Frank Solich.
Frank Solich, one of the more underrated guys. You know, Nebraska basically ruined their program by forcing him out because they decided they needed to change, and stupidity won out. So that's why, once again, they suck, and so they're another program that's not any good.
All right, we just kicked that one through the
Great
uprights.
support, but they suck.
We just put that one through the uprights. All right, that's going to do it for our time here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone for our Tuesday edition of Talking Ball. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. You never know what you're going to hear. All kinds of surprises. You never know. New terms, new terminology. You never know what you're going to hear.
Hashtag DirtNeck.
Or some other things.
Thank you, Jake Wimberly. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we really appreciate Chris Lee as well. Appreciate it, everybody.
All right, guys. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning.
Great callers.
Talking Ball.
If you're ready to lower your utility bills, it's time to call Eagle Insulation. Eagle can handle it all. Attic re-insulation, insulation removal, wall